Ready, Dave? All right. There you are, but you're going to start counting in here as well. I'm going to start paging everybody in. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Coulier, the one and only Ken Calvert, going to bring you in a second here.
One.
There he is. And then
where's Dave?
One more guy. We're waiting on one more guy. Ladies and gentlemen, Tim Allen.
You
made it.
Tim's holding up a finger. I don't have my contact in.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. Yeah, well, this is a good-looking room.
We're like the two old men on the Muppet Show as the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, right? What do you think's going on now, Dave?
Yeah. I didn't hear that.
Well, first of all, we're all here to help out Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, 41 years in the Motor City. You'll see at the bottom of the screen, tipyourwaitstaff.com. Yeah. We got that link right there, and every penny that you donate while you're watching this goes directly to all the men and women who work at Mark Ridley's, and Mark's not taking a dime. At least that's what he says.
Well, that's what he says. You guys can speak to that. Hey, do you like my
about $60?
I look like I'm wearing.
I'm wearing. I'm 1981. It was $15. Come on.
Well, Tim, you still owe him $60 for the tile you stole, right?
Why do you got to bring that shit up?
Because you put it in every interview. It's out there.
Do I?
I actually have a picture of it somewhere. We have. You still really have the tile, though.
I have the tile, and still to this day, I don't believe nobody noticed that I ripped the tile up in front of the waitress station, and because I couldn't believe I did it. I went and did that and I still got the tile. It's somewhere here at the office, I think.
Hey, you know what? Dave and I were talking before we jumped on here, Jim. We really wanted Ridley to sort of pound on us a little bit too. I mean, we wanted to pound on him.
Oh, you want to get Mark?
Well, right. we can do it later. In the meantime, in between time, you know what I wrote down? I want to see if you guys remember these things, because these were the places that I remember were the comedy castles. The Meeting Place, Orchard Lake. Did you ever do it? Yeah, remember that downstairs?
Played there.
Nobody could follow Coulier. Because he had that goofy Wizard of Oz bullshit. He had real comedy there.
Well, yeah, and he did the trumpet.
Oh,
he closed with the trumpet. Do a little trumpet, Dave.
Oh,
that was your out?
No,
that was it.
Follow him.
No. He was strong. That was part of it. I remember, and then
still have a resentment.
See, all I had to do was say the Meeting Place. I was working there as a host, and I was working upstairs because of Bruce Cameron, who I knew from the Maple House days. And so I was working there as a host, and then Ridley had an experiment that he wanted to try downstairs in the Meeting Place. It was like an Austin Powers room. Remember that? Those big sofas and all of that stuff? Maybe not.
I don't remember that.
Okay, yeah, it was a weird room. Hold on. And then the next one do you remember when the move to Red Cedars on Telegraph?
Yes.
No. Come on, Tim. That was a big room for you. That's when Bob L. Nicky was working with the puppets.
Here, Tim.
Oh. Hold on. It's a lot stronger these days. A lot stronger.
Then you just get to rub it on your leg.
I know. Believe me, I do. All right, Lafferty's Place for Steak, then to become not Mark Ridley's, but it was the jukebox downstairs.
Yeah, that was the basement.
Yes, it was a bad room. I remember standing in the back with the two of you. I remember we did a midnight, a New Year's Eve thing one time, Dave and Mike Binder, and the crowd was so screwed up for the second show that Ridley had put these splits of champagne on the table.
Nice.
And the crowd, everybody was getting a little left up. And
I remember
they were
Mike McDonald knocked a guy's tooth out in the front row because he said, "One more word, and I'm gonna beat you up." The guy said, "Word," and punches the guy in the face. And then the guy with his tooth knocked out laughing his ass off. And McDonald goes, "Why is that funny?" He goes, "It wasn't me. It was him that said it." He was so drunk. It was so funny until the next day. McDonald got sued by the guy because he had to replace the suit. But I've always laughed because he hit the wrong guy.
Well, these guys I remember these guys before Dave would go on. Binder looked at me behind the curtain and said, "Calm the crowd down or we're not coming out." And I said, "Me? I'm just the guy from the radio station. Nobody cared about me." And then all of a sudden, these people were shaking up their splits and started firing the tops at me. So
by the way,
yeah,
that was the last New Year's Eve show that I ever did.
You're kidding me.
Because of that, or just in general?
I just thought there's just no way I ever want to do another.
I never did it. Yeah, I never. Nope. That was it for me. It was it for me.
And that's became like the biggest money night of the year, you know?
Yeah.
And you go up there and you were just basically, it was like putting a transistor radio on top of a bar stool. That's
so, Tim and Dave, you guys both did your first on stage at Ridley's. Did you have a tight five? Did you have an idea what you were going to do when you got on stage, or did you just go, screw it, I've always wanted to do this?
I just always wanted to be as good as Stu Cassell my whole life. I could figure out, or Joe Napodi.
Joe Napodi, nice
Dave.
I wrote.
Wait, this is amazing, you MAGA.
I wrote 30 minutes in my basement. That's how innocence is bliss. And I did 15 of that for most of my first 10 years of comedy. First, I just wrote, I did this. Half of it bombed, but I learned from Kipadata later.
Oh.
No matter what you do, don't apologize, which I didn't. I was dying. And then I did the Pillsbury Doughboy, got a pretty good laugh. And I can't remember. And you save your best joke for last because they'll only remember how you left. As long as you're a good show. Unlike Coulier, whose whole show was 100 proof, couldn't follow the guy singing.
Sorry, for some reason it bumped us off, Tim.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is this
there you are.
App?
And that's how I became the senator from Iowa.
That is, Tim, you missed it. Greatest story ever. Greatest story ever. I was going to say that, David, while we were down for a second, I was talking about, what are you trying to stay awake through this, Tim? Are we killing? Yeah. You put your Joy Behar glasses on, Tim. Oh, let it go. Let it go.
All right. I want to see I couldn't see anything. I don't want to get bumped off again.
Right.
What was that about?
We don't know. What I was going to say is that I actually hired you guys. Well, both you guys were regulars in the morning on the morning program when nobody else was really doing comedy. It was just me, and along with Lynn Woodison and Dick Burton, we were sort of the trio. Lynn and I, or Lynn and me, and Dick Burton. And Dick Burton would have to read your bits beforehand, right?
Bits.
Yeah.
You had to write down the bits so that he would approve them.
Your shtick.
Yeah.
Yeah. He'd have to approve everything.
But you guys, radio was a big part, because I was thinking about this last night, Jim. These guys, Tim and Dave Coulier, did not have the benefit of YouTube. You guys were basically sight unseen by anybody in LA. So you had none of that platform business that the rest of the guys have now to at least showcase or hire some guy to do a YouTube video of their act, clean it up real nice, and put it up on YouTube. Those things, you guys were the pioneers.
All I can say is thank God there weren't cell phones back when me and Tim were starting.
Wow.
Thank God. None of that technology existed.
Bob Seger, actually, we used to come into clubs. It was so exciting to see him show up at clubs. And when I got to know him, he said the same thing, how I just followed his lead. If it weren't for morning radio, every town I went into, as hard as it was for me to get up at 5:45, because it was actually stay out till 5:45. The morning radio made it. He said the lesson is you want to do morning radio enough times that if you do it, come back instead of 6 months, try to come back 3 weeks, get rebooked again. And if you can put butts in the seats by getting a hold of morning radio, and for my career, it was morning guy Gino Michelini in LA who saw me at the Pasadena Ice House and recorded it. Instead of getting 80 calls, they got 8,000 calls. And that really launched me in Los Angeles because it was that kid that did the lawnmower bit. So they remember you had a hook. I had a hook. And people didn't remember my name. It was the guy that did all that. This transitions into a very uncomfortable conversation. Leno and I were talking about what we're talking about here. That there's comedy clubs are I don't know what we're going to do. I miss stand. I do gigs a year. Jay's still 200 a year. I don't know when we're going to be able to be in a room filled with people doing this next to you. It's just, you can't do it with the mask. You can't do it. And what about the guys now? Clubs like Ridley's. I know Mark was positive. He just said there'll be an antidote, immunization. Then we can start over again.
Yeah.
What about the guys? I know a bunch of guys are just starting to hit by doing concerts and getting out there. And they're nothing. And Lowell Sanders, my opening act in Vegas, he and I have worked together since comedy 30 years now. And he does small gigs and cruise ships. That's what he's been doing for almost 20 years. And it's just all of a sudden overnight, he got no gigs.
It's going to be like your neighbor in Beverly Hills, Tim. I know you're heckling me over there, but I can't hear you.
People have to wear a mask with one's got a smile, one's got a and one's got a frown.
Well, that's the whole reason for the benefit.
Thank you. Yeah, that's that whole tip.
I mean, that's the entire that's the premise right there. Because Mark and I, when Mark called me on this, he said to me, and we just started logistically walking around the club in our heads. And we said, wait a minute, 250 seats. And when that place is slammed, especially when either one of you guys are there or when you were there. And Tim, you both have shown up recently as recently as 2 years ago that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
And that it's really asshole to asshole, elbow to elbow, as my dad used to say, and we can't operate like that, at least until we get the vaccine. And then people are still, I don't know. I mean, it's a great discussion, but comedy would be hit the hardest.
You can't do it. I saw Alicia Keys doing something, and it's amazing to watch a musician, no makeup, bad lighting in her house, but damn, she's singing. And it's almost wonderful to hear a musician be a cappella or just play guitar like Sarah McLachlan played at Caesars when I was last in Vegas, and my wife came and she saw her in the little room at Caesars. But for comics, I've been even making jokes on my Twitter. There's nothing we can do. This is not a format. I need the audience. I live for it.
Well, absolutely. That's the fuel.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you guys, though. Tim, you mentioned Bob Seger. Bob always used to talk about how he would play here in front of 50,000 people at the Silverdome and then go play in a cave with Ted Nugent in Nebraska for 12 people. So you would do a sold out gig here at Ridley's. Did you guys ever have a moment where you played a room with like 8 people?
Well, never Dave, but I've had. I did the one I loved. I can't remember. I always make every comic like Joey's Comedy and Clams or something down. And I did a show, and they just wanted me to do in between the World Series. The Tigers are in the World Series, so you just had to do in between innings. I've never had a more violent group of people that would say, literally, hey, get the fuck off stage. Would go to Elias Brothers. I'd go up anyway. So shtick, bullshit. They go, people throwing stuff at me. There are literally 9 people that hated me. And then one time I did a show with Henry Cho, who's an extremely funny Southern guy, but Asian mix, as he stands up there, I know we all got something's wrong with this picture, ain't it? Because he doesn't look like the voice comes out of him. He and I did 5 shows at a place somewhere in Tennessee on the water, great gig for winter in Michigan. And the guy, there's a French fry light right over your head. That was the light. I did my show. He did his show. Then we did a Wednesday night show. And then Thursday, the owner goes, you all realize you're saying the same thing every show? Yeah, I do. You got to have to change it up because this crowd's getting pretty pissed off. It's the same group of people. And I said, well, we still had 2 more to do Friday and 2 Saturday. I said, this is just not going to work out very well. Well, you all better get some better bits. I heard the same joke. Wasn't that funny first time?
I never heard that before. I've never heard that story. That is great. That's really a great story.
What about you, Dave? Was the same thing for you? You have a gig like that?
My worst gig was on a cruise ship. It was after Full House, and I had to go with the entertainment director to pick up the opening act. He says, I can really use your help. So we're down in South America somewhere. We got into a Willys Jeep and had to drive through the jungle to pick up the opening act. We get to the train station, and there's a little person sitting on top of a giant trunk, like one of those steamer trunks. And he goes, there she is. And I go, who? And he goes, her. And it's the little lady sitting on top of the steamer trunk. Those were her props. So we get into the Willys Jeep, and she was from Denmark. And she looks at me and she goes, who are you? I go, I'm on the show with you, I think. She goes, you're a headliner? And I go, yeah. I will blow you off the stage. Wait till you see. And I go, oh, okay. And I'm just sitting in the back of this Willys Jeep, bouncing through the jungle, going, what in the world is wrong with my life right now? So we get to the show, and she opens the show. She finishes her act on top of a giant unicycle. The tire is on fire, playing the violin. The audience goes absolutely crazy for her. She gets off. They're still standing, right? She walks by me and she looks out. She goes, I told you, follow that. And I'm like, just in shock. And so I walk out, and it's old people and their parents. It's just a sea of white. And so I'm into my act. I hear the guys in the way in the back, the crew laughing. I hear the orchestra pit guys laughing. I hear the guys backstage laughing. The audience, nothing. I do 45 minutes to nothing. And I walk off to, here she is. I told you. No one can follow me. No one can follow me. So the entertainment director comes up to me and he goes, man, I have to tell you, we were all laughing. You know, the guys in the light and the sound booth, and we were all laughing. I go, not a laugh. Did they love her that much? He goes, well, this is a German cruise. What? He goes, I don't understand English. Oh, God. I'm like, oh, so the Bullwinkle and Popeye stuff really went over well. She goes, and she's just screaming at me the whole way out. I told you, you never follow me. You never follow me. Worst of my life.
Wait,
and I got to stay on the ship. And everybody from the audience gets to see it, and they're all like, uns sticken wir einste Kruten.
I was up in Just Pereira Comedy Festival in Montreal. It's a famous, actually, story. Chris Lyman was on ahead of me, and I'm backstage waiting. All of NBC, the whole audience is the first 2 nights. It's just studio people. It was a big shot for me. NBC was there. Everybody's there. And it's early on, 8:30 spot, perfect. Chris Lyman's up in front of me, and I hear silence and then oohs and gasps. I look out, and the dude was doing his whole act buck naked. He's got no clothes on, and it's a normal comedy act, and he ends the act with a Roman candle in his butt.
Oh, I do remember this.
And he's moving it, spinning around, singing. There's no business. And he's spraying acrid smoke all over the audience. And pulls it out of his butt. And he says, "Good night, everybody, from New Zealand, Chris Lyman." And he walks by me buck naked in the back hallway. He goes, "Thanks so much. Thanks so much." And he walks right by, and he was like shy now. And I walk out, and the MC's going like this. Okay. Now Tim Allen. Walk out, the whole room is like 12 minutes for me to be a shrink. I know what you just saw is offensive. And I got about 4 minutes of comedy in, but I've never seen a room in shock like they see.
How many years did it take you to handle fireworks after that?
Yeah, I know.
I'll sit this one out.
Hey, you know what? We wouldn't be doing this video cast in service, though. The whole Men Are Pigs was the launching pad for you. And that's a true story. And I know you told it a million times, but for the sake of the people that are watching that are kind enough to donate at tipyourwaitstaff.com, the genesis of Men Are Pigs came from your house, big family, and it's a true story about your mom. Is your mom doing well, by the way?
My mom is doing, she's not what, she'll be pissed. I think 93.
Is she really?
Will not stop going to the grocery store out in her area. And of course, the corona, the beer virus is everywhere. And she goes, "I just won't touch anything except the vegetables." She will not let any of my niece and nephew live there. She won't let anybody pull anything. I like to pick out my own peppers.
She's just a wonderful, wonderful human being. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Please tell her I say hello. But with that aside, please, we would be doing a disservice if you didn't tell the story. Men Are Pigs. Tell how the genesis of Men Are Pigs, please.
I said the whole thing was, I did this Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company gig in Akron, Ohio. It was a horrible gig, but it was money early on, and it was like $200. You go do Scotch and sirloin night, men just eating, and you're behind him in a conference room. It was horrible. Nothing going. All I heard, I was so mad because these guys weren't listening. All I heard was, "I'm going to get out of this business. I'm going to start my own hardware store," whatever. I was so pissed. I hated comedy. So I said, I just started mimicking everything I was hearing. So I started doing, yeah. Literally, the room got quiet. All of them turned around and went, I remembered that certain grunts, the question grunt, as soon as I got into it, I said, "You guys just like tires." We started talking about crowbars, and I said, that was my niche. It's something I really enjoyed anyway, is fixing the stuff and then barking like a dog. And that became as I tell the guys that have more talent than me, all you need is a hook.
Well, your hook worked out pretty well for both of you guys. Dave, who discovered you for Full House?
I had written a pilot in 1982, pitched it at Paramount Studios to Bob Boyette. And it was a show called McKinley Field, and it was about the experience I had flying here in Michigan, getting my pilot's license at a little airport called McKinley in Fraser, Michigan.
Yeah.
So I took it to Bob Boyette, and he loved it and optioned the pilot. And I thought, wow, this, showbiz, creating a show is pretty easy. So years later, I went in and I actually got the Full House pilot script. I was here in Detroit, and I was flying back to LA seated next to Mike Binder. And I read the Full House script, and I handed it to Mike. I said, "Hey, read this. What do you think?" And he read it. And he goes, "You don't know. This show, you could get this, and it could end up going 8 seasons. You don't know." And how,
clairvoyant,
for Mike to say that, but we still joke about that now. I went in. It was kind of a cattle call audition for every comedian in LA. I went in. I read, and Bob Boyette happened to be one of the executive producers with Jeff Franklin and Tom Miller.
Yeah.
They had produced Mork and Mindy, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley. The list went on and on and on. And I thought, wow, these guys are huge. I probably don't have a chance. So I went in, I read, and as I was leaving, Bob Boyette said to me, well, if you don't get this show, David, actually, he was like, if you don't get this show, David, I have a show about a small airport in Detroit I'd like to speak to you about. And so I went, oh, and then Tom Miller stopped me and he said, can you also read for the role of the father? And I said, yeah, give me 5 minutes. They gave me new sides. I went out and read the sides, came back in, read the part that became the Danny Tanner part. And they said, okay, thanks. And then that was it. I got home back when we had answering machines. My manager, Brad Gray, called. Listen, you got this Full House pilot. Apparently you did really well. And, it shoots next week. So congratulations. And that was it. We shot the pilot with a different father. It wasn't Bob Saget. It was an actor named John Posey. And we shot the entire Full House pilot with John Posey. They let him go. And then Bob Saget got fired from the CBS morning program.
Oh, yeah.
What?
And Miller and Boyette said, hey, we want you to read with Bob Saget. I said, read with Bob Saget? They said, yeah, we're going to fire John Posey. In fact, he's already been fired. And I went, oh, no, gosh, this showbiz crap is brutal. And so Stamos and I read with Saget, and Bob got the role. ABC liked it, and our screen test. And then we had to go back in and plug Bob into all the scenes where the original actor was. So they had to rebuild the sets, and there was no chance we were ever going to do that with just, some run-of-the-mill producers. But because of the power of Tom Miller and Bob Boyette, they said, no, we want the money. This is it. You're casting Bob Saget. And they did it. And then, the show had terrible ratings that first season. They said we were a 3 Men and a Baby ripoff. And, awful. Every critic panned us. And we just kind of languished on Friday night, which was kind of the graveyard for television. No one was there. And then they moved us to Tuesday nights in the Who's the Boss slot in summer reruns back when that was a thing. And a huge audience saw us, and then they moved us back to Friday. I remember seeing Tim. Where were we, Tim? In New York, the first season of Home Improvement. And I saw you. We were both there for ABC. And I had seen the pilot, but I hadn't seen Tim yet. And we were there getting ready to be, introduced on stage. Was that at Radio City?
Right.
Radio City Music Hall, where they were introducing all the new TV stars. And I remember telling Tim, I said, Tim, this show is going to be such a monster hit. It's going to make you a huge, huge television star. And I remember, Tim, you said to me, you go, you really think so? And
come on, you didn't know what you had? Tim, you seriously didn't realize what you had?
It was one of the best pilots I had ever seen. And I said, there's no chance this show and Tim aren't going to be a gigantic success.
And they we got panned. I mean, the critics said, you can't rewire this enough. It's one explosion away from death. The list of critics hated that show. Never really got any critics. Never really liked that show. But we followed. Good Lord, I think we followed Roseanne. They put us on immediately in front of Roseanne. Within a week, we beat her ratings. It just took off, just like Dave said. It was just, I don't know where it was. It moved so fast, and they pulled us away from Roseanne. We kept all those numbers on. I think we went to Wednesday night, and then we moved around twice. But I said critics never really liked that show.
Are you kidding me? That's amazing. Now, I remember going out a couple of times and watching it being shot, both shows, Full House and
this is the second 8 or 9 year run I've had on a TV show.
Yeah.
Home Improvement was doing 26 million viewers.
Yeah.
It was like now you get 3 to 7 million. It's a success, and it's just what a weird world that is. You could call the president and go, "What's up?" We shot a show, and I have the tape downstairs. I'm at my office now. We shot a show on the space shuttle live. They fed it down to the set, and it was a stupid joke about tool time. I was saying that I sent up a thing on how to fix it or whatever it was, and it cut to them all asleep. And that was the gag that tool time put them to sleep. They're floating around the space shuttle live. And for God's sakes, it was done. We had Bill and Jimmy Carter was on. No matter who you called, they would come on that show. And I said, you look at it now, I'm blessed to be part of anything because I love performing, but the numbers you do and the difference in the world now, it's an amazing thing.
What are you guys going to do? What are you going to do with the Last Man Standing? I know you took the last 2 episodes and you pushed those to the front of next season, pending the New World Order.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. I said I'm actually looking around. They're going to decide by Friday what the new schedule is for next year. But since there's no pilots, but we're like Brady. We're way past our prime. 8 years in a sitcom, that's pretty much the lifespan. To do 9 would be unprecedented. But once again, our ratings have gone up. They moved us from Friday, the no man's land, to Thursday, where everything's happening. And if we get picked up again, it's a very different show now because all the girls literally are grown up and gone like my girls are. It's kind of sad. And they've rebooted everything. And the writers go, we're the oldest crew because they're all what's left over still alive from Home Improvement. All the guys, all the writers, it's like everybody's freaking old. So the guy says, how are you going to write in a writer's room separated? How are we going to do a live audience separated? Are the actors going to be comfortable being with each other? This is a big unknown. I said, I'm with Ridley. Ridley really believed that this is going to get over. The reality is for the waitresses, I hope we can all help.
Yep.
The reality is it's going to take some time. But I think of all my buddies in the movie business. How are you going to ever do a big movie in New York City? How are you going to do a big crowd scene or a action movie? One of my buddies is doing the third Matrix. This is a funny story. Actually, Keanu Reeves did the voice of Dirk Kaboom in Toy Story 4, which I hated because he literally was funnier than Buzz Lightyear. And I was pissed at it. But even Keanu said, I didn't want to step on your toes, man. I love Buzz Lightyear. I said, well, then stop being so goddamn funny. And he was really funny, little Canadian thing. He had just done John Wick 3, and he and I were invited to see a premiere of the show. And I met him, but this first time we sat next to each other. He looks just like John Wick. He's got the same look, same clothes. It smelled horrible. He had the same clothes he just put the movie in. Beautiful motorcycle pulls up. You see this show, and I lean in. I go, you know how I'd kill John Wick? And Keanu goes, no, Tim, how would you kill John Wick? First off, I wouldn't invite you to a bar. Keep you out of enclosed spaces. You seem to like enclosed spaces. I would not invite you into a party because it's boom, boom. You killed 100 people, right? 109, actually. You killed a lot of people. What I would do, you walk that dog every day. I would get a sniper, 2 of them, one watching the other one across the street. And he says, coming out of the house right now. And I'd pick you off coming out of your house. He didn't even breathe. He goes, John Wick would know you were there. You'd be shooting. I don't see him coming out of his house because I'm right here. Oh.
And hey, Dave, you're doing Fuller House. You're directing this year, though, aren't you?
Yeah, I got to direct a bunch of the episodes. That was a blast. Every time that we had a show with 150 actors, a cast of 15. I got every big, gigantic show with special effects, tons of actors. It was ridiculous. It kind of became kind of the running joke, but I enjoy it. I wish I would have started doing it a long time ago because I love it. And, I have two sides of my brain. One is the, creative side. The other's, the technical side. And I embrace both of those. And I love working with the actors. I love trying to eke out as much comedy out of a script as you possibly can. And I think it helps me, thinking of the joke on my feet all the time, even though you have a script. And Tim knows, this process, better than anybody. And it's really helped me as a director to listen for that joke and be able to, give the actor something that makes it really funny. And, what I've discovered is that a lot of actors are really looking for something. Hey, can you give me something funny here? Give me some funny business. And I love coming up with that kind of stuff, and, you get up at 3:00 in the morning, and I have to be the first person. The director is the first person on the set. At least I am, and the last guy to leave every day. But I enjoy that. I love the challenge, and it was a blast. It was a great place for me to start directing. Was, feeling right at home at Fuller House and being on stage 24 where we shot the original show at Warner Brothers. So, so I'm hoping to do a lot more if our business ever comes back.
Well, speaking of that, what are you going to do? You guys have been doing this a long time. Are you going to call? Tim, neither one of you guys are ready to settle down in any way, shape, or form and walk away from the entertainment business, or are you?
I was telling my wife and kid, we went out last night. There's the yogurt place was open. I think it's really a peculiar time to think about. And I told them both, I really, really miss stand-up. I still do a lot, not as much as Leno, who's been on last a lot. That guy never stops. I don't know what he's doing. I talked to him. His shop is near my shop. He hasn't been off the road in 20 years. And he's gone literally 5 nights a week. When he shoots our show, he's only there. We shoot 5 days in a row, and he's only there sometimes for 2 or 3 days. And I said, I don't know what guys like that do. I do miss stand-up, and it makes me very sad. I don't know. I really miss stand-up comedy. I'm with Dave. I got to direct several of my shows. Typically, same with Dave. I go, this show I'm in a lot. It always works out that I'm in the show that I'm directing. So half the time I'm sitting there at the podium and everybody's waiting. I go, what are we waiting for? You're in the scene. And I don't like doing both. I'm totally in line with Dave. I love lighting, sound, all that stuff. I love that whole part of this business. And then I love the other side of it. If it's not real based on comedy, then it's just shtick one after another. So the writers that I've learned from, there's a story underneath. I'm watching Schitt's Creek right now, and if you haven't seen it, I think it's on Netflix. But
it is.
Really absurd comedy, but every now and then they really go and they grab a little bit of your heart. And comedy works really good if you got some story to line it on. And I love when the actors look at the other actor when they're talking. And you really believe that this is actually happening. And I said, I'm so involved in the directing. I'm kind of with Dave. I wished I'd done this earlier, but I get very frustrated quickly when I love acting and I love being the funny guy in the scene. So it gets a little weird when you don't get that feedback.
How do you direct yourself?
Well, I have a DP who I've got the shot, and then he'll just jump in. I've done 2 movies the same way, where I directed the movie and I'm in the movie, which was one of those very uncomfortable, big money. We had to do the wave machine down in Santa Monica. The Santa Monica Pier was lit at night, and there's fireworks. And the DP goes, and everybody's real quiet, and I'm standing there in the seat. And I see the actors go, and what? Well, you're going to have to say and action. You're in the scene. I'm like, oh, fuck. There's this space. And I said, I love this space here. Who does Sigourney talk to? You. Oh. And then I don't really, there's somebody that just calls action too, but they become the director.
Hey, real quick, want to mention the reason we're doing Oh, go ahead real quick. Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle. We're helping out tipyourwaitstaff.com. We've been checking the donations coming in and people have been, it's good, but I think we can do better. Our goal was 25 grand and every penny goes to the men and women who work at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle, whose lives have gone from 100 miles an hour to zero. I mean, there are no shows at Ridley's and we're all trying to get it open, but that's why Tim Allen and Dave Coulier and Ken Calvert, the casual one, so gracious with their time. So if anything you can do, tipyourwaitstaff.com. It's the very first club there, and every penny goes directly to the men and women of Mark Ridley's. Just want to make sure people were aware that's why we're doing this afternoon.
Nicely done.
You forget, that, there's comedians, but then there's that whole thing that happens behind the scenes, that actually, are the mechanics of making a comedy club work, and those people all have lives and kids and so many people are month to month and they need that money to buy food and put their kids through school and anything we can do, stuff like this to help those people who have dedicated themselves.
$1,000.
Okay, Tim's in for 1,000. All right.
Okay.
I'm in terrestrial radio. I'm in for $10. So no.
I'm retired. So I'll do $250.
Okay.
$250 from the casual one. That's now if we're to compare paychecks. Sorry, that's yeah.
This was no reflection to you guys. It just Dave was reminding me of how much.
Well, you know what I liked about not what I guess right now I have to say in the past tense, but if I may, real quickly. The beautiful thing that the wait staff does at Ridley's is that they so quietly go about their business without interrupting the flow of the comedian on stage. The room is so tightly packed. People are so close together, or they were prior to the COVID-19. And they were constantly walking almost like this, way down low. And then here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go, here you go.
And yeah, and we couldn't be as funny as we are without them getting that audience so drunk.
Yeah.
It helps us. It helps us immensely. So we wouldn't be where we are without that wait staff.
So we'll all go to that button. Is that the deal?
Yeah.
Go to that GoFundMe button. Okay.
So you guys know Mike Birbiglia put this together for comedy clubs all over the country. And New York and LA seem to be getting the lion's share of it just because, the media reach there. So for a place like Ridley's that's been here for 41 years, it's an institution here in the Motor City. Tipyourwaitstaff.com right there.
Where did I? Oh, okay. There it is. Okay.
What the hell is Ken doing?
It's a windshield wiper.
Tim's like, I don't know.
Oh, never mind.
Just a second. Hold on.
Hey, but sounds like a pneumatic wrench to me. Go on, cut a higher tone, Dave. Give me one on the higher tone. Come on, give me you can. There we go.
And that's what you did on stage at Ridley's first time.
The Queen of England, ladies and gentlemen.
Right, hey, we got to wrap this up. And
I don't want to go.
Tim, I could do this for hours. Seriously, I love this.
Hey,
Tim, thank you so much for the time, Tim.
I appreciate you asking me. And Dave, it's good to see you. It really is. Ken, I'll talk to
you too.
Call me later, will you? Okay, Dave, I got to talk to you about something else too, about the
Sure. Jimmy, thanks for orchestrating this and putting it together.
Welcome.
Yeah, good job, Jim. Great job.
Me to do this and
we hope that. What are you doing now? What are you
passing?
Yeah.
Again,
you were passing real gas, were you?
Yeah.
Why do you do that? That's such.
They were doing so well till the end of it. All right, everybody, tip your wait staff.
Listen, yeah, I got to get to the pipe, man.
Oh man, this is enough. You guys have a great day. I sure appreciate you asking me. And
one hitter
about how to get my little stipend to you guys.
Go, yeah, tipyourwaitstaff.com. Tim Allen, Dave.
Everybody's safe, by the way. Everybody else doing well. Everybody's family surrounding them. Everybody's
nobody's 90.
Nobody's connected. Your dad's doing okay, Dave?
My dad's he's going to be 90. He's still in the house I was born in. I think I think he's still in the same chair. He's still in the same chair too. But he's all he says is, "Whatever you do, Dave, I love you, but don't come over. Don't come over. I don't want to catch that. Whatever the hell's going around."
Did you guys want to say anything to Mark Ridley? Did you want to flip him off or anything? Because I know he's watching.
I just want to love you, Mark Ridley. I said I'm so obviously this is my history, and I'm so excited that I do this. But you still owe me. I think it's $68. It's somewhere in there.
Hey, I wanted to real quickly, Jim, before you go. I believe that you guys were doing our show in the morning before we actually changed area codes. I think it was just 542-9900. I swear to God, and then it went 3132, and then it went to 248. So whatever, I really do.
Long time ago.
Yep, long time ago. Great days, man. Great days,
Thank
man.
you, gentlemen. Right. Thank you, Mark. We love you, and hopefully this, help these folks out.
You're the best. Signing off. Thanks, guys.
So long, everybody.